Okay, shall we start? यस्मात् जातं जगत् सर्वं यस्मिन् एव प्रलीयते येनेदं धार्यते चैव तस्मै ज्ञानात्मने नमः। ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेदविभागिने व्योमवद्व्याप्तदेहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। तैत्तिरीयकसारस्य मयाचार्यप्रसादतः विस्पष्टार्थरुचीनां हि व्याख्येयं सम्प्रणीयते। ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। ॐ अन्नं न परिचक्षित तद्व्रतम् आपो वा अन्नम् ज्योतिरन्नादम् अप्सु ज्योतिः प्रतिष्ठितम् ज्योतिष्याः प्रतिष्ठिताः तदेतदन्नमन्ये प्रतिष्ठितम् स य एतदन्नमन्ये प्रतिष्ठितं वेद प्रतितिष्ठति। अन्नवानन्नादो भवति महान् भवति प्रजया पशुभिर्ब्रह्मवर्चसेन महान् कीर्त्या। So this is the 8th Anuvaka. Since there has been a little bit of a break, let me wind it a little bit so that we have the continuity. So we are in the third and the last chapter of Taittiriya Upanishad, Bhrigu. Bhrigu has 10 Anuvakas, 10 sections, and the first 6 sections is the famous father-son dialogue, the Varuni Bhargavi Vidya, Varuna and Bhrigu. So he goes to the father and asks, what is Brahman? Father refuses to give him any answer. He says, Tapasa Brahma Vijijñāsasva Tapo Brahmheti. He says, Tapas is Brahman. So he doesn't know what to do. Again he comes and asks. So again and again he says, Tapasa Brahma Vijijñāsasva. Then also gives him a little framework. We saw all that. Those are the first 6 sections of Bhrigu. Then 7, 8, 9, 10. These are the balance in Bhrigu. We saw 7 already. Yes, going to see 8 today. But I will rewind a little bit of the 7 so that we get the continuity. But what happens in Upasanas in Anuvaka 7 to 10 is it provides certain ideas for Upasana. And also it provides certain important life practices. In fact, this is the real charm of Taittiriya Upanishad. Since we have been seeing it from the beginning, I think the real charm of Taittiriya Upanishad, if you really look at, there are 3 things which, see, now that we are more or less at the end, we can now talk about this so that we will be able to connect. Taittiriya Upanishad actually put 3 things on the table. One is Upasana. In Sikshavali we saw about 7 types of Upasana. Pankta Upasana, Om Upasana, then Upasana of the Samhita. So many things we saw. Hiranyagarbha Upasana, all that we saw. So, Taittiriyopanishad in chapter 1, if you look at it, Sikshavali, there are only two things. One was a set of Upasanas, which went up to, I think, the 9th Anuvaka. Then 10th and 11th Anuvaka are a wonderful set of practices, life practices. The convocation address, it says, Shraddhaya Deyam Ashraddhaya Deyam Hriya Deyam Biya Deyam Samvida Deyam Atha Edite Karma Vichikitsa Va Vritta Vichikitsa Va Syat Etatra Brahmana Sammarshina Matridevo Bhava Pitrudevo Bhava, all ideas. So Sikshavali is, one part is Upasana, the other part is life practices. Some code of conduct, good practices in living, and they make enormous sense, as we saw, particularly the 11th Anuvaka, we spent quite a bit of time in Sikshavali. Then came the middle portion, which is Brahmanandavalli. Brahmavita apnoti param. Brahmavita apnoti param. Half a sentence, the whole teaching is over. Those who knows Brahman gets everything, knows everything. Then the entire middle chapter was Upanishadic teaching. It is teaching of Brahma Vidya, that ultimate truth in its beautiful way, the way Shruti generally does, ending up with that the great ecstasy and that great ananda with which we saw the. So there is one component of Brahma Vidya. Now if you look at Bhriguvalli, there is a Varuni Bhargavi Vidya, which is the Brahma Vidya in a how to practice it, how do you actually get it. So in a way it is a continuation of chapter 2. But then chapter 3 again the Upanishad gets back to Upasana and some life principles. That's what you will see in 7 to 10. For example, the 7th Anuvaka, Annam na nindyat tadvratam, that's the first life teaching. Don't, do ninda of Anna. That's what it said. It said Anna Brahmopasanam is what you will say. Then there is a Upasana also. Now the question is, what is this idea? What is the logic? Having gone through it, we can understand. See, in life, I think the most important thing, the most important starter in life is our mind is hugely distracting. Biggest challenge is mind distracts. That's the biggest challenge for anyone. So the code of living are all told in different places in Taittiriyopanishad. If you really look at it, they are the ideas to say, can you bring your mind a little bit under control? Can you develop certain practices of living which will ensure that the mind is, I think this is the biggest challenge. Mind has to be under control. Without that, nothing is possible. So that is why you find those teachings. The last Anuvaka, some of the principles which we are going to see here. Now, if somebody says, I am able to reasonably sort of handle my mind, the mind is reasonably controlled. I mean, I do not know where is something called perfect state of control, which is a samadhi state. But certainly we can aspire to a situation where the distractions are narrowed down. See, today, smallest things tosses us. We get into a deep thinking, we start evaluating people, we say, I have been so, unlucky in life, this has happened. Mind is very notorious for that. Untrained mind will just take us. That's why Krishna says, Uddarayat Atmana Atmanam Na Atmanam Avasadayet Atmaiva Bandhuhu Atmanam Atmaiva Ripuratmanaha. Choice is ours. How do you handle the mind is, to me, that is the greatest investment in spiritual journey, in self-evolution. To me, spiritual journey and self-evolution are two sides of the same. I don't look down upon spirituality. There is this sort of a mental model. Spirituality means get disinterested in life. You don't have to, do things with a lot of vitality and rigor. Don't show any interest in worldly things. Generally recede, withdraw. They are all misinformed. They are all wrongly understood ideas of what is spirituality. I think, to me, spirituality is the greatest expression of the blossoming of Vyaktitva. The personality must blossom. That is the acid test for spirituality. If somebody says I am more spiritual, I think that personality is full blown. I must tell this. Because this is what I have seen with all these acharyas. It all depends on what you see. See, 5 years back, I sort of stopped eating out. So I have been going through a heavy travel now. So I had a huge bag of pantry and another bag of my usual, dress and all that. I've been going. So I went to Chinmaya International Foundation, which is one of this thing in Kochi. It's a beautiful place actually. So I was there for 2 days. I conducted a workshop there. So some vision workshop. That's why I went there. So there were 2 Swamijis who were part of that workshop. So first day morning I didn't go for breakfast because I had, it is a sopaga which I am doing actually. And I had a little bit and then I went there and then I just had a cup of coffee. They said, no. I said, all right, not a problem. There was one Swamiji. He looked at me and said, Nishtha Palaniya. We are speaking in Sanskrit. He said, you have to follow Acharaha Palaniya eva. I have absolutely no doubt that you have your own ideas of discipline, you must follow it. Parantu bhavantaha asmakam atitihi. He said, you are my guest. I said, no Swamiji, don't worry, I don't want really, I didn't mean to put trouble in you, it's alright. You know what he did? This is the first day, day 1. So the conversation got over, then he became very thoughtful. Then around lunch time I came to my room. I found that this Swamiji I was told he cooked himself. I said, Swamiji, you have reversed the whole logic. I should give bhiksha for you and you are giving bhiksha for me. Like jovially I was telling. But what he did, there is a temple, he went and told the temple priest or something. He cooked something and then it is lying on my room. So I got very embarrassed. I said, Swamiji, I didn't mean it, I will eat here. It's not that I don't want to eat here. It's just that I was having something, I will sort of, since the ration is with me, I will not waste it, I will use it, I didn't mean it. No, he said, evening I went to a temple nearby and just before going he called me, he said, I have prepared some, so 4 times, so next day morning, I actually took a photo in my mobile because what he has done, he organized a nice assortment of fruits on a nice fruit platter, but in the middle of it, he put a small cup in which there are some sprouted nice cereals and then there was a lemon to squeeze because sometimes sprouted alone people don't feel like you need a little more taste. Then some dates, all that he left. Then again he cooked lunch for me. I am saying this is possible only for a person who has a little spirituality. You should melt. You should melt to that extreme. He is a very revered Swamiji in that campus. He is also about 45-50. But he said nothing doing. And he said, you will not budge an inch. Your achara, you will have to, you follow, I am very happy. But you also, today I have another dimension to you, you are my Atiti, and he goes to that extent. Then I was talking to those people. They smiled and said, this is nothing new. For you it looks very surprising. Sometimes guests come here, night 10 o'clock or something. The Swamiji gets up, switches on the dining space, goes and prepares something. He doesn't have to, you can always ask, he feels like that. So what I am trying to say, to me the acid test of spirituality is that this I call it as an evolved personality. Several Swamiji have had different experiences. Several Swamiji have had several experiences like this. So we have to understand spirituality can actually develop personality. That is my own take on. It's not giving up everything and surrendering. All that I also started with that ideas. I have covered enough ground in my personal life. I see a different picture in somebody who is very spiritual, is more evolved. So what Taittiriya Upanishad is trying to do is It says your mind, if you are not able to little bit take a handle, you are going nowhere in your journey of spirituality. What I mean is, you go nowhere in your journey of developing your vyaktitva, developing your personality. Your personality will never flower. You will have to spend a lot of effort and time on this. That's why all those nice code of conduct, living and all, this is what I see. Now if you say, I have covered some ground, there is a fair amount of control. I mean, I will not say complete control, but my mind is not distracting. The vibrations have little bit slowed down, all that. That is the time you need the second tool. And that second tool is called upasana. You have gathered, what are you going to do with that? Your mind has been gathered. You are just going to leave it. If you leave it, it has a tendency to go again. Because it will park for some time. Then, that's why you need to focus. Upasana is all about focusing. That is the second step in this self-unfoldment. That's why the Taittiriya Upanishad puts that also. And it gives different ways of upasana. Of course, these are all Vedic upasana. In Purana, the upasanas have gone to a different level. Why? That's why we do puja, and they are all the other equivalent of, we can put a, image of a god or a om or a cross or a light. Brahma Kumari people will put a light. Doesn't matter. The idea is, gather the mind, focus the mind. That's why he says, tapasa brahma vijijnasa. Tapas is manascha indriyanam ekagrata. We saw the definition. The indriyas and the manas must be focused, as though a mirror will focus sunlight into something and even burn and melt a metal. It is the focus. That kind of a focus, how do you actually practice that focus? To practice that focus, you need upasana. That's where the practices of upasana. Now, if somebody are able to master the art of focus, then we need to ask, what for am I focusing? What is the larger issue? That's where the Brahma Vidya is coming. So that is how this Taittiriya Upanishad is. You have upasana and code of living in first chapter. You have a beautiful Brahma Vidya in second chapter. Again there is upasana and focus and principles of living in the third chapter. So all those are there. So that is the real background to where we are going in Taittiriya Upanishad. Now, what is this last section in Bhrigu? Because we are coming to the close. The Upanishad is coming to a close. Varuni Bhargavi Vidya is over. Now it introduces some upasanas and some principles of life. Simple ideas which we need to take. In fact, I was reading Chinmayananda's Taittiriya Upanishad commentary. Some of the sentences were so revealing. So I thought I will sort of write it and bring it because it was so good. So, what are those central messages in Anuvaka 7 to 10? We have seen only 7. 8, 9, 10 we are going to see. What are the central messages? First message is a perspective. What is these 4 chapters, 4 sections telling us? It is giving us a perspective. Perspective for reinterpretation of the world and not for its negation. Not to negate things in the world, but to reinterpret the world in a particular way. It is helping us with a certain perspective. That is the first line which really, appealed to me. How does it do? It brings a vision of the divine that is imminent. Divine, if you say divine is elsewhere, we have half the interest is lost. If you say, God is thousands and, we can't even measure distances. God is elsewhere, Bhuloka, Shivaloka, Vaikunta and all that, then half the interest is lost for most of us. We are not able to take a bus and go to, Silk Board. That is what we are hassled. And you are talking about an entity which is far, far away? No. It says divinity is imminent. So the second perspective you get is a vision of the divinity that is imminent in the world of names and forms. And that is the charm of Vibhuti Yoga and Vishwarupa Darshana in Bhagavad Gita. Vibhuti Yoga is all about saying that the one is in the many. The gold is in the gold chain, the gold is in the gold bangle, the gold is in the gold necklace, the gold is in the gold stud, the gold is in the gold whatever. That is what Vibhuti. You say Krishna took 72 items, he said, I am here. Pandavanam Dhananjaya, Masanam Margasi Shoshmi. Right? So many things. Ritunam Kusumakaraha. He even took inanimate ideas. In Vasanta Kala you can see me. In the Ritu, Kusumakaraha, that Ritu which flowers. Kusuma is flower. And then after saying all that in the Vishwarupa Darshana, he said, you have now understood what are all of the forms of gold possible, I will show you gold now. You see all the forms there yourself. So that is what it is. In the names and forms we should be able to see divinity. That is another acid test for spirituality. In the names and forms we should be able to see divinity. So this gives that perspective. And thirdly, thereby develop a right attitude towards the world of multiplicity. See his choice of words. You have to develop an attitude towards the world of multiplicity. It's a heavily loaded word. Because today, our understanding of world of multiplicity is very divisive. The whole discourse that is going in the parliament and everywhere is all giving us that, inherently we are like that. An untrained mind, an uncultured mind is always like that. It has a tendency to be very divisive. At the highest level, it will say that, or at the lowest level, it will say that, I have this interesting observation. If you go to the US, Indian is a measure of oneness for you. Your divisiveness is only at a national level. Moment you come to India, you say, are you Madrasi, or you are a Malayali, or you are a Kannadiga, or what is it? So our ability to be divisive. Moment you come into a Tamilian, I can go on in this, I have experienced it, all of us have experienced it. Moment you say a Tamilian, you say, are you from south or north? And this is one plane, this is a geographical plane. If you take the caste plane, it is equally interesting. And it stuns me. I am a Brahmin. So you say, so you say you are a Brahmin or a non-Brahmin. So that's a nice division. If you say Brahmin, life is no better, I can tell you. They ask Iyer or Iyengar. You say Iyer, they say, are you a Vadama in Tamil Nadu? They have 4. Brahacharana, Vatima, Vadama. Oh, you are Ashta Sahasra. This is our nature. This is our nature of an untrained mind. What I mean is, that is why this statement is very important to me. This Chinmaya statement is so loaded to me. It says, can you develop a right attitude towards the world of multiplicity? I like this statement. That is called spirituality. Spirituality is our ability to develop a right attitude towards the world of multiplicity. Differences will exist. Can you see entire Bhagavad Gita, if you take the 18th sloka in chapter 5, for example, it says Pandita Samadarshina, Swanisascha Supakascha, Pandita Samadarshina. In fact, one lecture and one person asked me, Sir, if you say oneness, there is so much of oneness you are saying. Then he asked some question. The reply I gave him was, I am not able to see it. I told him, don't use the principle of oneness and say, I will take 1 kilogram of stone and cook for my breakfast. Rice and stone are not same. Oneness, in the world of Vyavahara, there is no oneness. In fact, when Vyavahara comes, there is this difference. So spirituality says, when you see the difference, when you are in the world of Vyavahara, can you develop a sense of Paramarthika? That is the idea. So when he says, develop an attitude towards the world of multiplicity, what it means is, as you see the Jagat, with all its Nama, Rupa, Gunaha, it has names and forms and guna, that is Prakriti Vishesha. Can you see behind the RGB, can you see the pigments? That is what, so these last 4 Anuvakas are actually trying to do it. That is what it is actually trying. Now, how is it trying? How is it achieving? Anuvaka 7 to 9, if you take, we are going to see 8. 7th we already saw. Anuvaka 7 to 9 gives a very important message of what is called interdependence. Or Annavan Annado Bhavati Mahan Bhavati Prajaya Pashuvir Brahma Varchasena. We will see that again. Mahan Kirtya. It says interdependence or mutual dependence. In fact, this Anuvaka 7 to 9, if we correctly understand, we will understand one shloka, we will be reminded of one shloka in Bhagavad Gita. It says, Devan bhavayata anena, te devan bhavayantuvaha, parasparam bhavayantaha, shreyaha param avapsyate. One who has understood the value of paraspara bhava, the value of mutual dependence, what will happen? Param shreyas, he will get the pinnacle of shreyas. Shreyaha param avapsyate. That message is coming here. And it comes in such a beautiful way. Through a upasana, it is trying to demonstrate that for us, focus the mind on this idea repeatedly, thousands of times, you will start seeing that picture. That is called a upasana. So that is what it is. And how does it do it? It does with 3 living principles. It takes 3 principles. First of all, so one is the upasana which brings the paraspara bhava, and there are also 3 living principles. I talked about 3 living principles also. The upasana starts with a living principle. First living principle, it says, like principle for life. Annam na nindyat tad vratam in Anuvaka 7. It says, Annam na parichakshita tad vratam. In the next Anuvaka, it will say, Annam bahukurvita tad vratam. There are 3 principles it brings. And in 10th Anuvaka, it brings another life principle. Anyway. Now, how does it use upasana to bring interdependence? That's the question now. So what it does is it takes anna and annada. It takes 2 ideas. Annam is food. Annadaha is the eater, or the eaten and the eater, if you want, or the consumed and consumer, if you want to use a word like that. Annam is consumed. Annadaha is one who is consuming. So eater and the eaten. Then pratishta and pratishtitaha. Look at here, it says apsujjoti pratishtitam jyotisya papratishthitaha. Pratishtitam is that one which is established. Pratishtitam. Pratishtitaha is one who is establishing. Or in other words, the supporter and the supported. The established and the establisher. If I have to use some approximate English word. So it uses 2 competing frameworks. Consumer and consumed, or supporter and supported. It uses says, and then it says the supporter is the supported is the supporter. The eater is the eaten is the eater. So that is how it brings the paraspara. That is how these mantras are going. So actually, strikingly, modern science also is heading so well only into this idea, much more actively. I have told this several times in the past. The biggest difference between Newtonian physics and particle physics is that the experimenter and the experimented became one in subatomic level. In Newtonian physics, it is not like that. When the stone is falling, the seer can see the stone falling. The observer and the observed are 2 different. In a subatomic physics, it is not like that. The observer and observed are the same, are part of the reality, which brings that Heisenberg's uncertainty principle. Many times I have told it before. So modern physics, modern science is also understanding this concept that at the highest level of truth, it is mutual dependence. So the Upanishad is touching the highest level of truth to us by bringing the principle of mutual dependence. A person who understands it will be highly evolved. A person who understands the world is nothing but a mutually dependent entity will be highly evolved. That is at the highest level of evolution possible. In fact, Fritjof Capra, particle physicists are writing only books like this. Fritjof Capra in 70s started writing the Tao of Physics. Then he wrote a book a little later in 80, Turning Point. Late 80, he wrote a book called Web of Life. Early 90, he wrote a book called Interconnectedness. We are getting there. So science is also saying the same thing. Our experiences are telling the same thing. Moment you play around with the nature, nature reminds us, you don't exist without me. It brings that concept very strongly and powerfully. Sometimes it is, the effect is so, strong. It leaves a shock in us. a flash flood or a tsunami or something comes and reminds us there is a cardinal principle of Paraspara Bhava. Those are all coming through this particular Anuvakas in Taittiriya Upanishad. So we saw the seventh Anuvaka, where it said Annam Nanindya. So it took three of the thing. Then it used food. Why is it using food? Annam. If you look at the entire Brahmananda Valli and the first part of Panchakosha Vivarana, food is the gateway for spirituality. Please understand. Annamaya Kosha. Our going to Anandamaya Kosha must start with Annamaya Kosha. First we think this is what I am. Eat more, I become little bit thicker. If you eat less, I become thinner. So I think this is what I am. Bhrigu also started like that. So food is the gateway to spirituality. So that's why it uses food as a reference and starts talking about. And secondly, as we will see, which I want to repeatedly emphasize, the notion of food is not narrow in this discussion. Food is, even in English also, in common parlance, we use the same thing. When we say food for thought, it is not jalebi. It is not samosa. It is not one plate of idli. Food is a word which we use in a different way. Please understand. Food means anything for our indriya. Indriyartha is called food, which means the world of possibilities. So the food actually points to the world, the Virat. This physical world is called food. So with that perspective, we will now look at this Anuvaka. Says, Annam na parichakshita. Don't reject food. Pariharanam na karotu. Na pariharet. Don't reject food. Tadvratam, that is one principle of life. Now, easiest thing is we can start talking about the food in the narrow sense of the term. Right? There is still meaning in it. I remember I uttered this story long back. It comes to my mind now. Two of my friends working in Bosch went to Germany. He came back and he narrated a story to me. He said they called 3 more Indians. They went to a restaurant. They ordered some food. Paid for it. But as usual, as most of our Indians do, we also waste a lot of food. So they left some food there. Okay? As they got up, 2 Germans came and said, you can't do it. So this Indian friend was narrating. He said, we have paid for it. He said, that is not the issue. Look at what level of thinking is required. It's not about paying. Just because you are paid, you cannot afford to waste. So they were telling that it's a certain thinking. Because food is a zero-sum game. Please, there is something called zero-sum. It's called rob Peter to pay Paul. That's called zero-sum game. If I have to become better, you have to become poorer. So if I have taken this much of food, somewhere it is lost. In fact, the most striking explanation of this is, many of my colleagues in this institute, my very credible colleagues, they believe in leaving everything on and going. I believe this is also food. This energy that we are wasting, why can't we switch off and go? In home we do it. Because we seem to pay electricity bill. Here I don't know who is paying the electricity bill. It's a zero-sum game, and I'm not even looking at the economy. IIM can afford to spend some more money. It's not that. This energy we have denied, that is a larger principle. So don't reject food. Can also, even in the narrow confines of the food, it can bring us to that kind of thinking. We can be very careful about food. It's a zero-sum game, please understand. We have to be very responsible about any natural resource. It's a zero-sum game. We have to be very, very careful. Otherwise, we are frittering away a precious resource that Mother Earth has given us in its own ways. But there are other ways. The larger sense of this statement could be, one should not reject the larger world of objects that can be indriyartha. Food is the indriyartha. The food for thought. Don't reject everything. We are very, lot of people are my way or highway. You come my way or highway, go. I am not going to agree. Look at that are all pointing to the lack of development. These are all the indicators for development of a mind. To me, these are indicators of index of spirituality. Not the color of the dress and whether it is mundanam or kashayam na mundanam, na kashayam na mundanam. That's not spirituality. That's just uniform. As much as we have uniform for our own certain, it's an occupational, sometimes it's convenient to detect. It ends there. It's not beyond that. So in some other, religious cult, it may be a different uniform. It is just an identification. It's a little easy, but we can't attach anything to it. So it again says of a mind which is a little more developed. That is the point coming there. Because only then we will be ready to. What is maturity? Maturity is our ability to make meaning out of every experience. But that is the highest level of evolution. Because bad things happen to me, I will resign that I don't believe in God. These are all fancy statements actually. The moment something bad happens to me, I don't believe in God. When something good happens to me, I don't want God. You look at this difference. When something happens, it's all because of me. I don't want God. Something bad happens to me, I don't believe in God. These are all very low level, I call it as LKG of spirituality. I think a trained mind cannot do it. I think world of experiences, we should take it with a folded hand. It's a prasada, we have to take. Good or bad are all adjectives. We have to go. Matra sparshast kaunteya sitoshna sukha dukkataha agama paino anityaha tam titiksha svabharata. Develop titiksha. It will help us to do it. To contemplate on this idea and practice it to that level, then we will agree with this statement. Annam na parichakshita tad vratam makes sense to us. So it's a deeper meaning that you can bring here. Then he says, so that is the life principle. One liner is a life principle. Annam na nindyat, like that. Annam na parichakshita. Then comes this upasana now. The upasana goes like this. Apova annam jyotirannadam apsu jyoti pratishtitam jyotishyapa pratishtitah. So you take up to that. Apaha va annam. He says, it's an upasana. Take water as the food. Take that as the reference frame. Apaha va annam. If water is the eaten, then the question is, who is the eater? We are using a framework of eaten and eater, consumer and consumed. So if water is consumed, then the question is, who is the consumer? So that's the upasana. We have to reflect on this thought. Upasana means repeatedly think and think and think and make sense of it. Repeatedly. Vedic upasanas are intellectual. Puranic upasanas are picture, signage. It's one level lower. That's why Sikshavali upasanas are very tough. It's very abstract actually. This is a very intellectual thinking. So it says Jyotihi. Jyoti is Agni. Jyoti is a synonym for Agni. Shine is a synonym for Agni. So what is it saying? Apahava annam. Water is the food. Eaten. So the eater is the fire. Okay. Now the reverse is implied. It is not told. Now we have to supply now. We have to, because the whole framework is going, so we have to now interpret the reverse also. So what is the reverse? The Shruti is not saying it. The reverse possibility is Jyotihi va annam. You just put it the other way. Jyotihi va annam apaha annadaha. That's the other possibility. So how? So I have a 2x2 framework which I used last time also. I will use it. I am merely explaining the literal meaning of the mantra, then we will understand what it is. So first it said, water is the eaten, fire is the eater. Then by implication, fire is the eaten, water is the eater. Then the supporter and supported framework is required. So it says, apsu. Apsu is the seventh case. In water. In the water, jyotihi pratishtitam. So water is the supporter. Jyoti is supported. Like that. Then the ulta is also there. Jyotishu apaha pratishtitaha. Here it has said both. Now it says in the Jyoti, which means in the fire. Now fire is the supporter and water is the supported. So now, see, all these ancient Indian wisdom are all sukshma, obviously. So we will have to do a lot of our own homework. That is why we can't read like modern texts we can read. We will have to, that's why Acharyas have written commentaries, and over and above that we can also sort of bring our own reflection. It is very reflective. So we will take the framework and see. So this is a framework I used last time. I used the same thing and just changed a little bit here and there. So what is it saying? Now, let us talk about thirst. Let's take this idea of thirst. Thirst is actually nothing but the expression of the digestive fire. That is called thirst. The digestive fire is, so the fire is the eater now. The quenching the thirst by consuming water is the eaten. So in that process, if you look at that process, the fire is the eater and what is eaten is the water. We have our own anubhava of this concept, and we have to actually extend this anubhava in many ways. Or you take digestion. That's a much stronger, that is a lighter version, is a stronger version. What is digestion? The fire is consumed. You put anything, it is ahuti actually. For the Vaishvanara, you are doing ahuti. You put anything in less than 3-4 hours, it's all consumed. Right? So the water, everything is consumed. So the digestive fire consumes. So that is why fire can be the eater, the water can be the eaten. So this is this process which is able to understand. Now this I am talking about in pinda. You can reflect it on anda. I am talking about gadakasha. You can do it in mahakasha. You have to reflect. You will find a similar thing. One can actually see that. Now look at the other one, the other dimension. Putting off a raging fire. Right? You bring a fire extinguisher. Now there what is happening is the eater is the water. The eaten is the fire. That is what it is. Once there is a raging fire, they endlessly pour the water. The fight happens. One day the fight is won, or at one time the fight is won. If fire won the fighting, then it will go to the previous framework. If water wins the fighting, it will come to this framework. In other words, what I am saying, actually putting off fire and quenching the thirst appear similar. Obviously both are, it looks like it is putting off the fire of one kind. The question is who is the winner. So that explains what is being eaten. This is a simple logic, na? What has one has eaten the other. That's how it is showing a certain difference. That's all it is actually making a difference in terms of. This is a small example in the Gadakasha. One can extend the logic. The possibility is what we need to understand, that fire and water are dependent on one another. That is the point it is coming to. Fire and water, we also saw it in Brahmanandavalli. We saw the whole creation process. So I will take it there. It is much more clearer. One supports the other. One dependence on the other is the Pratishta and Pratishtita. That also is very nicely explainable. Look at these examples. I have taken the examples. If you take cloud and lightning, okay, only when there is a water, lightning will happen. Only a rain-bearing cloud will have lightning and thunder. Is it not? In other words, the water is the beholder or supporter, that is the one which is the Pratishtha, and what is being supported? The electricity or the fire. What is Jyoti, electricity, fire? They are all forms of fire actually. So the example of a cloud and a lightning says water is the supporter in which the fire or the Jyoti is being supported. Otherwise a rain bearing, there is no rain bearing cloud, there is no lightning possible. So that process tells us. If you take a dam and a hydroelectric power is again giving us that understanding. These are all sanketas. It is saying that the water, in the water resides the electricity. Through the hydroelectric process we create, which can manifest as Jyoti in its own. Electricity is a form of Jyoti, one way if you look at it. So those two examples are here. But if you look at the other example, that's what Brahmanandavalli said. Akashat Vayuhu, Vayor Agnihi, Agnerapah. From Agni came Apa. The whole Panchikarna, I explained all that in Brahmanandavalli. How this world is created. So Agni is a prerequisite for Apa. And we also understand it. If Agni is not there, water will never condense and come back again. The condensation evaporation cycle is a mutual dependence between water and Agni. It's also explained here. Agnerapah, that's what it says. Without Agni, Apa is not possible. If there is no heat, we will actually use up all the water and that's the end of the story. The water dries up, becomes evaporates, gets into the lightning, becomes rain bearing and comes back, for which the medium in which it is supported is heat. So that is, so those are what these mantras are saying. That's why Apa is the Annam, Jyoti is the Annadaha. Reverse is also possible. Anna is the, Jyoti is the Annam, Apa is the Annada. Then it says, Tadetadannamanne pratishtitam tat tataha, therefore, etad annam anne pratishtitam. Please see, food is established in food. In other words, it says both are closely interdependent. The existence and manifestation of one depends on the other and vice versa. That's what it is saying. Tadetadannamanne pratishtitam. Then it says, it has to go like this. Yaha, you have to do anvaya of this. Yaha etad annam anne pratishtitam veda. That person who knows food is indeed established in food only, saha pratitishthati. He gets established. Established in what? In that ultimate truth. Because his understanding has become deeper. So he pratitishthati in Brahman is assumed now, implied. A person yaha etat annam anne pratishtitam veda saha pratitishthati. He indeed establishes himself to the ultimate truth. He becomes possessor of Brahman. Brahmavit apnoti param will happen to him. That is what this mantra is actually saying. So he who knows that food is fixed in food, these are all English translation. It makes no sense. After I have said all these, this translation makes no meaning. Just because I have written it, I am saying. One who understands the Paraspara Bhava has understood this truth. Then as last time we saw, it has a Upasana Pala. Annavan Annado Bhavati. He becomes Annavan. He becomes possessor of that food. Food means the world of experience. He becomes the consumer of the world of experience. Annadaha Bhavati. Annavan Cha. Annadaha Bhavati. He is the consumer and experiencer and possessor. Everything will happen to him. Mahan Bhavati. He becomes great because he has understood this cardinal deep principle of this existence. Mahan Bhavati. By what? Prajaya. By progeny. Pashubihi. By all cattle wealth, because that is the expression of economic well-being at that time. Brahmavarchasena, also with Brahmavarchas. Kirtya also, by fame and name. In other words, he is a settled individual at the end of the day. He has settled his preoccupations in life. Manaha samadhiyatam. Manas samadhanam abhavat. He has seen through the truth. So that is that spiritual growth which I was talking about. These are the ideas coming through this mantra in Anuvaka 8. It's the Anuvaka 9, which is, having said this, I can now brush, because the other frameworks I don't have to establish. I have to establish only those middle one and then go. You'll see the 9th Anuvaka. Annam bahukurvita tadvratam pritiviva annam akasho nadaha pritivyam akashaha Pritivyam akasha pratishtitah akasho pritivi pratishtita Tadetadannamane pratishtitam saya etadannamane pratishtitam veda pratitishthati annavanannado bhavati mahan bhavati prajaya pashubir brahmavarchasena mahan kirtya. The rear part is repeated, so I don't have to explain. Now we'll have to see how is this relationship happening. So now what it is saying, first the life principle, annam bahukurvita, please produce more food. That's what it says. Annam bahukurvita. Bahu is more. Please do. Now it has both the meaning. At the lowest level of meaning is make food available. Today, there is so much talk about agriculture in the, I am told in the budget and all that. One narrow sense is make more food. Another wider sense is create more knowledge. Create more experiences in the world. Because that's the only way you will also learn and go forward. So the food can be a narrow sense, can be a larger sense. Whichever way we want to understand, we can understand. So therefore, accumulate plenty of food. Accumulate world of experiences. Again, Chinmaya put some nice sentences. I really loved it. So I thought I will bring some of them. He says, this is not an instruction for increased production and self-accumulation. He said, you don't understand like that. It is for this joy of sharing. This is for the joy of sharing. Accumulation is not for the sake of accumulation. The accumulation is to have the joy of I have a possibility to share now. That, get that blessing and then do that. He says, not to hoard wealth and forget oneself in the madness of power. His choice of words are all very, strong. He says, not to hoard wealth and forget oneself in the madness of power. He says, not for that. This mantra is not for that. He says, it reminds us that enrich experience, create a world of possibility, create a lot of food even in the material sense for the purpose of having the joy of sharing. Spread it out. You will become more evolved. Your evolution is more when you are able to do it. So it is pointing to those possibilities. So that's what is the life principle here. Annam bahukurvita tadvratam. Take it as a vow. Practice this diligently because your personality growth, is also linked to this very seriously. He says it is to develop an enthusiasm to serve and propagate. That is the whole idea of the teaching. Don't miss that part of the teaching. Is what he was trying to interpret. Then now it takes Prithvi as food. Earlier it took Akasha and Apa and Jyoti, Sharira and Prana, and the first thing it took Sharira and Prana, which we saw last time. Now we saw actually Apa and Jyoti. Now it is taking Prithvi and Akasha. Now this is much easier to understand. Prithvi and Akasha. If Prithvi is the food, it says Akasha is the eater. It's very simple. If this sense of this table is impossible without consuming this much space. In other words, if the space does not consume this object, this notion of this table will not come to you. Look at this. If you take the projector, what is this projector? The space has eaten that food, that space, that material. That's why it is called projector. If it is not there, there is no projector. Think about this possibility. A ball is a ball because the space has consumed a material and presented to you called ball. It has a finite space, na? It occupies a finite space. So that is how it is. It's a deep idea which you can understand.
But the entire earth is in Akasha.
It is also in Akasha.
Like a ball.
And the fact that we see earth is because Akasha consumed that and projected it to you. Consume meaning it made it available to you. It took it into itself and showed it. Something like that. So let's look at the two possibilities now. This is what? Akasha is the annam, eater. What is eaten is the object, so that you got the shape finally. That's the one possibility. The other possibility is evolution of the earth. The reverse is involution of the earth. The pralaya process. The pralaya process is Prithvi is the annam. Okay? Involution process, the earth falls into the space finally. it consumes. So that is how the annam and the annada happens in the other possibility. Right? You see that Prithvi is the annam consumed. Into it, what remains is only space. It is a literal sense. Earlier is a conceptual idea. We are trying to define a ball by a conceptual idea in which we argued the other logic. Here the logic is, that is what it is, na? Everything is folded in, and what is left out, you read Bhagavatam 3rd canto, you will get that. What was it before it started? It was nothing but space. Or if you read, what is called that suktam which I brought it, na? It's a very famous sukta. Not Purusha Sukta, no, we also say that. Nasadiya Sukta. Nasadiya Sukta, it said nothing was there. All pitch dark, nothing was there, it's only empty space. So the involution process tells us that, in fact, it will eat everything in the reverse order. Akashad, Vayu, Vayor, Agni, Agni, Rapa. Now you can say the reverse. This will fold into it, that folds into it, that's the Pralaya process. Finally, what is left out is space.
And when that manifests, it eats some space and comes out.
It's the other concept. So, look at the Pratishta and Pratishtita. This is very interesting. See, how do you get a hall? How do you get this classroom? This classroom is possible if only there is material. If you destroy all the material, it becomes Mahakasha. Gadakasha is not possible. If you want a Gadakasha, you need a Gada. So, Prithvi is the supporter of space to make a transactional sense to the space. This got a transactional sense now. It's called a classroom. Temple, bedroom, bathroom, kitchen. How did you get it? You populated with material, right? And let the space occupy that. And that new space has a meaning. A ball is what? The material allowed the space to occupy and then created a transactional sense into it. So, in order for the space to engage in Vyavahara, it needs Prithvi. But otherwise, it is not possible. If you destroy the whole world, it becomes empty space. No Vyavahara is possible. So, in order for Vyavahara to happen, the enabler is the material. And the enabled is the space. The space is now enabled into a classroom. A normless, formless, shapeless entity is enabled into a norm and name and shape by material. So material is now the Nama Rupa Guna. So that concept is coming. It is a deep concept. Again, if you think about it, one is the supporter of the other and vice versa. In the creation process, without Akashat, Vayuhu, Vayor, Agnihi, Agnerapah, Adbyah Prithvi. So there is a sequence. Without Akasha, Agni is not possible. Without Agni, Vayu is not possible. Without Vayu, water is not possible. Without all these, it is and if you remember. Without the four elements, it is not possible. Material is not possible. So that is the supporter and this is the supported in that process. So all these examples are taken again and again to remind, and this is an upasana. We can't understand and agree it directly. Maybe a million times we have to just reflect on this concept. It may reveal us some truth. That's what Bhrigu is being told here. That the world is nothing but just dependence, interdependence. One will eat the other. That's why Bhartrihari in his Vairagya Shataka, he says Bhogana tapta, Bhogana bhokta vayameva bhoktaha. We thought we are enjoying, we are being consumed in the process. We become old. We are consumed. World is always that. Bhogana bhoktaha vayameva bhoktaha. Tapona taptaha vayameva taptaha. Pita kalona yataha vayameva yataha. He says we did not spend time. Time spent us and made us old. One day it took us away also. So we don't know what is happening. Is A is doing B or B is doing A? That's the question he asked in Vairagya Shataka. Is A doing B or B doing A? Same thing this is saying. This is clarifying. A is doing B. B is also doing A. And if A is doing B and B is doing A and B are the same. It's a simple logic.
Like the chicken and egg.
All are same. That is the mutual dependence. That is making sense of the world of multiplicity. That is only way by which you can remove the divisive understanding in our mind. Vyavaharartham divisive things are required. Can you develop a perspective? Despite all these differences, there is a common thread because you and I are dependent. When it says food, I mean, these are abstract ideas. If food and water and earth are dependent on each other, what to say of you and me? All the more we are able to understand. So that is the message in Anuvaka 789. Anuvaka 789 have a life principle. Annam na nindya tad vratam, annam na parichakshita tad vratam, annam bahukurvita tad vratam. Then it also reminds us, make sense of the world of multiplicity, because this world is nothing but a complex web of interdependence. In a Vyavahara sense, of course, it's a complex web of interdependence. A depends on B, B depends on A. A will eat B, B will eat A. Literally, we are eating one another. You are eating my ideas, I am eating your experiences. That is what is happening. Coming to think of it. So that is what the Anuvaka says. Then we have a last Anuvaka, which is a long Anuvaka. But there are some nice ideas in that also. 10th Anuvaka, with that Sikshavalli will close. Maybe we may need another 2-3 weeks 2 weeks may be required, maybe even 3 weeks. So some nice things, and then he gets into ecstasy, Samagana. He really says, ha, uha, uha, u, ahamannam, ahaman. He really gets, he says, I am the food I have found now. He has reflected on the concept and understood the truth. He gets into ecstasy. That's how the Upanishad has a beautiful closing, which we may need another maybe 2-3 weeks to do that. Next week again there is no class. I am traveling. On account of Shivratri, I generally go to my home and we do a very elaborate puja. So next week again, bear with me. I think unfortunately we need to have some, occasionally it happens. So bear with me for that. Next week again we don't have a class. I hope after that we will not have a problem. So 14th only we will meet. Where we will see the 10th. Incidentally, we have completed 50 sessions in Taittiriya Upanishad today. I never thought it will take so long. From 20-30 sessions I thought we have completed 50 sessions by the grace of the Lord. We'll stop here. Oh, he has been to Kumbhakonam, Mahamakam. So please.
That's why he didn't come to the class. And
So-
there was also no class last week, and earlier to that week, there was also no class. Sir.
Yes.
But today I checked up with Ram Kumar and then he has got the outline.
Is it?
Mine broke in the middle.
Yeah.
You redialed it, but it broke.
Yeah, I read it. Streaming went fine.
Two
But
files
that
are
recording
there.
won't.
Small one, big.
No, by mistake I deleted it.
That's okay. That's okay. Don't worry.
Only the chanting.
Nothing happens.
Not much.